Imagine you wake up one morning and find out your country, a place most of the world had kind of forgotten about, just won the biggest lottery in human history. That's not a movie plot, it's the real-life story of Guyana. It's a story about an unbelievable, mind-boggling opportunity, but one that comes with some serious, nation-breaking dangers. So let's dive into this trillion-dollar lottery ticket and, read the fine print. I mean, to really get how huge this is, you just have to look at the before and after. For decades, Guyana's economy was all about sugarcane, rice, and bauxite. It was one of the poorest nations in the entire Western Hemisphere. And now? Well, now it's literally the fastest-growing economy on Earth. It has more oil per person than Saudi Arabia. It is a complete 180-degree flip.
And check out this number. This is the kind of thing that just breaks economists' calculators. While most of the world was worrying about a recession, Guyana's economy was on track to grow by almost 44% in a single year. That's not just growth. That is an economic explosion.
So how in the world did this happen? This wasn't some slow, gradual change. Nope. It all came down to one single moment, one golden ticket that was cashed in the middle of the ocean, and it changed the fate of the entire country. Like, literally, overnight. Let's get into how it all started.
For years, people thought there might be oil off the coast. But company after company, we're talking big names like Shell. They came, they drilled, they found nothing, and they left. But ExxonMobil, they were stubborn. They drilled one more hole, the Liza 1 well. And on May 20th, 2015, they didn't just strike oil. They found an absolute ocean of it. And since then, it's just been one massive discovery after another. The scale of this is it's hard to wrap your head around. We are talking about over 11 times billion barrels of recoverable oil. But here's the kicker, the number that changes everything. Guyana only has a population of about 800,000 people. That's like the entire city of San Francisco sitting on top of wealth that rivals a Gulf state. The country's GDP? Oh, it just tripled in less than 5 years. No big deal.
Okay, but you know how it is. When you win the lottery, you got to read the fine print on the back of the ticket. And for Guyana, this is where the story takes its first really dark turn. The contract they signed with ExxonMobil has become a massive source of anger and controversy across the entire nation.
This quote right here, it perfectly captures the mood in Guyana's capital. The terms of that oil deal, and specifically that phrase, 2% royalty, are an open wound. It's probably the most controversial two-word phrase in the entire country right now.
And this table just lays it all out. It shows you exactly why people are so furious. Guyana gets a mere 2% royalty on the oil. The global average, it's usually somewhere between 10 and 20%. On top of that, Exxon is allowed to use up to 75% of the oil money to cover its own costs before the profits are even split. So think about it. Exxon gets paid back for everything first, and only then does Guyana get half of what's left. A lot of experts have called this one of the most lopsided oil deals they've ever seen.
And, it just keeps getting worse. Turns out there was an $18 million signing bonus that the government initially denied even receiving. That just shattered public trust. The contract also has this thing called a stability clause, which basically freezes tax laws for Exxon. So if Guyana wants to change its own laws in the future, it might have to pay the company for any losses. The result of all this? Guyana's actual take can be as low as 14.5% of the total value of the oil. Now you might be thinking, okay, the deal's not great, but a ton of money is still pouring in, so that has to be good, right? Well, not so fast. This brings us to a famous and tragic economic paradox known as the resource curse. It's how sudden wealth can actually make a country and most of its people poorer. This phenomenon has a name: Dutch disease. It's named after what happened in the Netherlands back in the 60s when they found natural gas. The main idea is that a massive boom in one industry, like oil, can end up poisoning and killing off almost everything else.
So here's how it works step by step. First, all this foreign cash pours in to buy oil. That makes the local currency super strong. Suddenly, Guyana's other exports, like their famous sugar and rice, become way too expensive for other countries to buy. And just like that, those traditional industries start to collapse, and the entire economy becomes dangerously hooked on just one thing.
And this is what it looks like on the ground for real people. You get this two-tracked economy. You have foreign oil workers coming in with huge salaries, and they drive up the cost of everything for everybody else. For example, An apartment that a local teacher could afford for $500 a month is now getting rented out to an oil contractor for $4,000. For the average person, their country is getting richer on paper, but their daily life is getting a lot poorer.
So, as if a terrible deal and a looming economic disease weren't enough to worry about, Guyana now has to figure out how to protect its jackpot from a very big, very desperate, and very dangerous bully right next door.
And that bully is Venezuela. For a long time, Venezuela has claimed this region called the Essequibo. And this isn't some small border dispute. We're talking about 2/3 of Guyana's entire country. And, wouldn't you know it, that's exactly where all the offshore oil is. So Venezuela is looking at Guyana's lottery ticket and basically saying, hey, that's ours. This chart tells you everything you need to know about that threat. The military imbalance is just, wow, it's staggering. Guyana has about 4,000 soldiers. Venezuela, around 120,000, not to mention a bunch of Russian fighter jets. This isn't David versus Goliath. It's more like David versus Goliath, but David forgot his slingshot at home. But, and this is a huge but, here's the twist. Guyana has a kind of unofficial insurance policy. Remember who's drilling for the oil? ExxonMobil, an American company. One of their main partners, CNOOC, is a Chinese state-owned company. So suddenly, the United States, China, and the UK all have massive economic interests in making sure Guyana's oil keeps flowing. They've already sent warships and conducted military flights, sending a really clear message to Venezuela. Don't even think about it.
So you take all of this, the bad deal, the economic threats, the hostile neighbor, and it brings Guyana to this monumental crossroads. We're talking about $1 trillion on the line. The country has to choose its future, right now, and the stakes could not be any higher.
And the road ahead is just filled with other traps. The country's politics are already deeply divided along ethnic lines, and oil money is like pouring gasoline on that fire. They're planning a huge infrastructure blitz, which opens the door for massive corruption. And of course, with both the US and China so invested, Guyana could easily become just a pawn in their global rivalry.
So it really boils down to this choice. There are two paths. Path number one, they become the Caribbean Qatar. They manage the money well, they invested in schools and roads, they diversify the economy away from oil, and they use all that new wealth to heal old political wounds. Path number two, they fall into the classic resource trap, like Nigeria or even Venezuela. Corruption runs wild, Dutch disease kills the rest of the economy, and it all ends in collapse and violence. The choice is theirs.
I think this quote just sums up the whole situation perfectly. For the people of Guyana, this moment has to be this crazy mix of incredible, world-changing hope and just paralyzing fear. They're balancing this unimaginable wealth on the shakiest foundation you can imagine.
So that's the final question, isn't it? Will they be the next Qatar, a blueprint for how to do this right, or will they become just another sad cautionary tale about the curse of black gold? The choices Guyana makes in the next few years won't just decide their own future. They're going to write history, one way or the other.